celebrations will be canned at 200 pubs and clubs across the nation over concerns it will upset patrons.
Australia Venue Co. informing managers of the decision as the country continues to debate the contentious day. Let's get today's take on this one with journalists Shelley Horton and John Mangos. A very good morning to both of you. Shell, let's start with you. Is this going to anger people, or are attitudes finally starting to shift?
I really feel like attitudes are shifting. I haven't celebrated Australia Day on that day for over 10 years now. I just feel uncomfortable with it, and I feel that people who are really rallying about keeping that date are not actually being very kind. So we have changed the date before. So back in 1915, we actually celebrated it on July 30. So why don't we just change it? I feel that, you know, there's a lot of people going, oh, this is woke. But in fact, if it doesn't affect you, why on earth are you being so mean to other people? It's time to open our hearts a little bit and just change the date.
Yeah, John, I think I know where you're going to sit on this one.
Yeah, I 100% agree with Shelley. You know, I've noticed more and more white people every year going off Australia Day for the very reasons that Shelley just mentioned. Like, Arthur Phillip raised the Union Jack 200 years ago and declared this country terra nullius, which means no people. We had a civilisation of Aboriginals here for 60,000 years. Such an insult to the longest surviving race known to humankind. And I think more and more white Australians are coming to that realisation and going, you know what, it feels uncomfortable. So what I say is become a republic, and the day that we declare our Republican status, that becomes Australia Day.
That's the new Australia Day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you'd expect more businesses to come on board with this?
Look, personally, I'd like to think so, because I don't think it's a day of celebration anymore. I really don't.
And that's the sad thing about it, isn't it? Because we have got such an incredible country. Every time you go overseas, you come home and you appreciate exactly what we've got here.
Yeah.
We have to agree on a day to celebrate, because what we've got is just too good not to celebrate.
And Tim, let's be clear, because Shelley and I sit on the same side here. We are proud to be Australian.
Yes.
We love
Yes.
Australia.
Absolutely,
We
yes.
love Australia,
Yes.
right? It's not about that. It's about this particular day. So let's not confuse the day with our patriotism.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Shelley, just
and we
quickly...
want to celebrate. We want to actually embrace our country. And I think the best way to do that is embrace a progressive country rather than looking backwards. And I personally love May 8 because I love that you go, mate, mate.
Yes!
That's Aussie as.
Yes,
I
yes,
love that.
yes. All right, also making news for us this morning, a new study has revealed a lot of us think our cars are more important than our lives, with Aussies 3 times as likely to insure their vehicle over themselves. Shell, you surprised by that one?
I'm actually not surprised at all. With the cost of living, I think it's important and it's required to insure your car. But when it comes to things like life insurance, it's really expensive. So I've only got life insurance because it's part of my superannuation fund. If I didn't have that, then I would have a lot of thoughts about whether or not it is actually worth it. I can't even afford income insurance, which is really hard when you're a small business owner. But when I looked into it, they were wanting to charge nearly $10,000 a year as a just in case. And with the cost of living at the moment and running my own business, that's just not viable. So I think that this is something that I can see people are just, that's where they can cut some money out of their budget and have more food on the table.
Well, it all adds up, doesn't it, John?
Yeah.
You got car, health, life, you know,
And
home.
I'm actually in the category. Over the last few years, I've reduced my life insurance, and there's no way I'd have an uninsured car or an uninsured home, right? But the life insurance, as Shelley said, mine was actually costing more than 10 grand, and I reduced it. I've still got it, but it's a fraction of what it was, because what's it for? What's the purpose of it? Like, it's not tangible. Whereas when you're driving a car or you own a home, you want that to be protected against whatever.
Yeah,
accidents.
I guess it's there so that if you do pass,
Die, yes.
if you die,
Your partner gets $1 million bucks.
Well, so they can pay off the mortgage,
Sure.
so they don't have to leave
Sure.
the house or whatever.
Sure.
But in this current climate, people aren't thinking that far ahead.
The idea's right, but and I see Shelley shaking her head, and she's right. It's disproportionately expensive. It is ridiculously expensive, and it has to be, because if they're going to pay you $1 million when you die, they've got to get at least most of that $1 million while you're alive, and that's why it's so expensive.
Yeah.
I don't like it at all.
It's hard enough getting through day by day at the moment with the cost of living, let alone planning ahead
Yeah, that's right.
for a what if, as Shelley said. All right, guys, stay with us. When we come back, would you take your partner's surname? The age-old debate that has divided Australia.
And don't feed the birds. Why you could soon be fined thousands of dollars for this simple act. You are watching Today Extra. Don't go anywhere.
A simple act of kindness could cost Aussies up to $30,000 after it was revealed that residents in WA and South Australia are at risk of copping a hefty fine for feeding birds.
Yeah, Shelley and John are still with us to discuss this. John, I mean, pigeons, they're a pest, but should you get fined $30,000 to feed them?
No, of course not. People love feeding birds. Like, that's what we do, isn't it? When you have a sandwich on a park bench and you've got a few crumbs, you feed the birds, and it's a joy. You're interacting with nature. I just don't get that you get... Like, are they really a pest? Are they
pigeons
really...
are a little
Sky
bit, aren't
rats.
they?
I'm not sure we should
They
be
are
showing this vision
sky
right now.
rats.
Shelley, as we cut to you, those nanny state allegations, we're not going to be beating those anytime soon, are we?
No, look, seriously, feeding pigeons is ridiculous, John. You really are living in a Mary Poppins film right now. We actually have evidence from Wires who are protecting birds, saying please don't feed them because it makes them more aggressive, and particularly if you're feeding pigeons, they get aggressive with native birds and they become dependent on humans. So if we go on the side of the animals, then it makes a
harmless.
lot of sense to not feed them.
Shelley,
If you
it's
look at this
harmless.
article, though, it's also saying that it's because of nuisance and property values. And if you're going to start talking about that, then I get a bit annoyed saying, no, that's ridiculous.
Shelley,
But
we're not talking about culling birds or killing birds. We're talking about
you're
feeding
changing the way
birds.
they are feeding, John. So it doesn't make sense. So, and if you're
It's not
taking this
their-
information from
No,
Wires, which
no.
is Australia's
It's-
number
Shelley,
one protection for animals,
No.
you've got to listen to the experts
Shelley,
rather
it's
than
not-
listen to your tuppence a bag.
Shelley, it's
Hot
not their
debate.
primary. It's not their primary source of food. It's a snack. They get their food elsewhere. Oh my God!
It's like a sometimes food. Really, John?
Yeah.
Really? We're going to talk
All right.
about
But the
that?
more food
Bread
you feed
sticks?
them, the more pigeon poo there is as well. Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to throw
Correct.
both of you a little crumb, and while you feast on that, the great surname debate is continuing to divide Aussies this morning after this clip surfaced online.
I don't want to have my father-in-law's surname. I want my own name.
With my surname or nothing really.
But we got to get over this whole surname thing. It's not a man's right to be, passing it on.
The way I see it is that every woman's last name is from a man anyway. If it's not from a husband, it's from her father. Your family just stops there. I think it should be more normal just to keep your own name.
Ooh, okay, it's already fired up here while that's playing out. Shelley, let's go to you first for safety's sake.
Yeah, look, absolutely. I'm very pleased that we are not in the same studio at the moment. I hate when people change their name. I think that it's archaic. I have been married twice, so I would have gone from Coke to Pepsi to creaming soda, and that means I'm just diluting my name and my brand. And what I found interesting in that clip was the woman who said, oh, we're just taking our father's name. But you know what? There are more people now where it could be the mother's name. They divide it amongst the children. So it doesn't have to always be ownership by the man, because that's what traditionally it was for. And I just think it's so outdated, and we need to start looking at ourselves as a brand, and my brand doesn't need to have a reboot because I've had 2 marriages.
That's it, right? I mean, it's just easier to keep the one surname in the first place. I kept my surname only because I feel like I've been Belinda Russell my whole life.
Correct.
And I'm proud of my family heritage.
Yeah.
So where do you sit with this one?
I 100% agree. You keep your name. It's your name, and you're entitled to keep it. I understand some men or women would like to change so that they can be aligned with the partner, but no, shouldn't be forced to change the surname. Having said that, my wife kept her maiden name for the first few years, and then we found when we were travelling, the paperwork got difficult at hotels and airlines, and we were seated apart, and you get rooms
thought
with
she was
single
your
beds,
mistress.
or just yeah, exactly. So
Why did you go there?
and then we thought, what do we call it? What surname do the children have? So
Yes.
she voluntarily changed it over just to simplify things. And so I think for many people it works just to reduce the bureaucracy. But in terms of, as a matter of principle, women absolutely should be able to keep the name they were born with.
Yeah, because I guess it gets a bit tricky, doesn't it, with the double-barrelled name. So if, Maddie Calvert-Russell married a Tom...
Well, I don't know. I think Shelley,
Tim
Coke,
Davies.
Pepsi, Cola, Mountain Dew got quite the ring to it.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
Could be a
I
hit.
love it. Maybe that's going to be my Christmas present to myself.
Hey, we want to say a huge thank you to you both for your input on this program over the last 12 months. Thank you.
Shelley.
Merry Christmas.
Shelley, we may disagree, but I love you, darling.
Love you to bits, Mangos.
Oh,
See
it
you
feels
guys.
like Christmas. We love you guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a beautiful Christmas with your families. Still to come for you on Today Extra.